Welcome back to another episode of Petroglyphs UFO show. How is everybody doing today, tonight, wherever you're watching this program on, whether it's you're live on television or here on Facebook or YouTube. Make sure you check out my YouTube channel, The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky. I am your host, Jeff Woolwine. How's everybody doing today? Glad you all could make it and tune in. So, tonight's episode is going to talk about why did the Hohokam people, the first Native Americans in Phoenix, Arizona, carve balloons on the rocks over 1,000 years ago? Or was it really balloons? We're going to get into that tonight. And we're going to talk about a sighting, a UFO sighting that happened in Chandler, Arizona, that will go along with the petroglyphs on tonight's show. Glad you guys could make it. Hello, I'm Jeff Woolwine. I'm a native here in Phoenix, Arizona. Born and raised, been seeing these UFOs in Phoenix, Arizona ever since I was a kid. We are upside down today, people. Don't you just love live shows? Let's see if we can flip that around. Alrighty. Okay. Alrighty then. So, I just love live shows. Anything and everything could go wrong, and it does. That's why we do it, right? To see how many times things can go wrong in a show. All right, so I'm a native here in Phoenix. Been seeing these UFOs ever since I was a kid. Watching the Phoenix Lights when I was a little boy. Seeing these orbs in the sky. So UFOs is nothing new to me. I've been born and raised with the things, you know. That's what made me go on a hunt, go on a quest to find out exactly what was going on in our Phoenix skies. Not going by hearsay, as many others would like to believe without no proof. I had to find some evidence. I had to find some hardcore facts on what was going on in our skies, not only in Phoenix, but your skies also. We're on a quest, on a journey in 2004, filming these lights on the east side of Phoenix in a town called Mesa. Those of you who understand where Mesa is, this is right outside of Phoenix. It's right next door to Phoenix. These lights showed me where to go. They were moving towards a mountain called South Mountain. And we all know about the 1997 Phoenix lights that occurred on the west side of South Mountain. In my whole 20 years plus research on investigating the 1997 Phoenix Lights incident, in no way, shape, or form can I find any evidence of anything going over the Valley of the Sun. I was out that night. Like I said, I was born and raised there. I didn't see anything go over Phoenix. The people who did capture what was really going on that night filmed lights on the far west of Phoenix, Arizona, on the west side of South Mountain. Now in 2004, I got information that lights were back. So I went to Mesa. I looked southwest in the Valley of the Sun, waiting for these lights. Lo and behold, two appeared in front of me, about a few miles away. Big orange amber lights moving west towards South Mountain. Over the course of the whole summer of 2004, I found a strategic place to watch these lights, Mesa Community College. Climbed up on them bleachers, saw the whole city of Phoenix, and was able to watch these lights over a power plant on Ray Road. Those of you who know Phoenix, Arizona, There's a power plant, electrical power plant on Ray Roads. It's bored down into the fault line of South Mountain. These lights hovered over that power plant almost every night in the summer of 2004. Called up the news media here in Phoenix. Asked them if anybody else has seen these lights. Because I have many, many, many formations of lights. Many, many sightings. I probably have the most sightings of the Phoenix lights ever in history. Did the news reports, did about 5 or 6 news reports. End result was I'm seeing military flares 150 miles away in a town called Tucson, Arizona at Davis-Monthan Air Force Base. Now, any fool will understand that these videos and looking at my videos, and those of you who have personally seen these lights before, know that these things are huge. They're big orange amber lights in the sky. They're in the city. They're next to South Mountain. They're not 150 miles away. They're right here in the Valley of the Sun. Been studying archaeology for well over 40 years now. Give or take a century, I don't know. 35 years, let's say. Was studying archaeology way before I was a ufologist. So I'm watching a piece in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm watching a show. And I see this Native American, right? He works at one of the Indian museums down here in Phoenix. I'm watching him in 2004. And he's up there on South Mountain. And he's doing like a little tour. And he's explaining on what the petroglyphs from the first Native Americans who lived here in Phoenix, known as the Hohokam Indians. We're going to get into those here in a minute, who those people were. And he's talking about the petroglyphs on South Mountain, and there's some people there, you know, watching them and learning about the petroglyphs. And he comes across this stick figure man. And one of the people who was with him said, you know, this stick figure man is looking up at something in the sky. Native American turned around and said, absolutely. His name is Dave Morris. You can find him at the Pueblo Indian Art Museum in downtown Phoenix, Arizona. Tell him Jeff Woolwine sent you. So Dave turns around and says, yes, that is part of our ancestors. Our ancestors' interpretation is that our ancestors saw and recorded things in the sky. Uh-oh, wait a minute. Let's evaluate this here for a minute. Okay, so the Phoenix Lights that everybody knows happened March 13th, 1997. And here it's 2004, and all these so-called UFO researchers and people selling books and movie tickets and whatnot, and being on the news and stuff and cable shows, hasn't even looked into these petroglyphs before? I was like, wait a minute, hold the phone. Let's step back for a minute. We have strange lights in the sky. Now we have strange markings on the rocks out here. There has to be a connection. Right? So I'm watching that in 2004, right? So I'm keeping that in the back of my head. I wrote down Dave Morris's name, and I traced him down on where I could find him at, and I kept that in the back of my head. Kept that for future reference. So I'm filming these lights in 2004, over a power plant next to South Mountain on the east side, doing news reports. They're saying we're seeing flares. That was the cover up back then. We'll get into the new cover up here as the show progresses. So I'm like, wait a minute, and, I've been studying archaeology. I'm studying ufology now, and all these texts, all these old scrolls and texts, is telling me that mountains seem to be the source, and these things were showing me where to go. I followed the Phoenix Lights to South Mountain. So let's take it a step further. In 2005, I moved to South Mountain. I sat there on the east side of South Mountain, about, give or take, a mile and a half away. Perfect view of the mountain. Got me a nice strategic apartment overlooking South Mountain. Perfect. I mean, I couldn't get more better than that, right? Had my camera out that window for 3 years. Didn't take long. These things coming down out of the sky, coming down on South Mountain, just as I guessed, had a feeling, because I was seeing them by South Mountain. So let's get some day shots. Let's go to the mountain, see what's there. And while I'm filming these things coming and going from the mountain, I'm actually now close to the mountain, and I can hike it. I can go exploring. I can set my archaeology skills to work. So I'm out there on the mountain. I'm seeing all these petroglyphs. I'm seeing spirals. I'm seeing carvings of giants. I'm seeing, I'm finding sacrificing altar tables. I'm finding tombs. I mean, it just gets deeper and deeper and deeper. All the evidence that I'm discovering out there that no one has talked about. No one is talking about, right? What's the deal here? I mean, that's a tomb. There's a tomb right there, man. Come on. There's something buried in that pyramid hill, right? I found the evidence, right? So then so I'm filming these things, and I'm coming down on the mountain, and I go out there because everybody is saying, oh, a spaceship went over Phoenix, 1997. A craft. In all the years, 20 plus years of investigating the Phoenix Lights, I don't see any evidence of this. I see a lot of people trying to get on the news, talking about this, selling books about nothing, selling movie tickets at Harkins Theater about nothing, with no evidence to suggest anything that validates their claims. I see hearsay. I'm sorry, hearsay can take a holiday. Hearsay is not credible. So I'm thinking spaceships, I'm thinking crafts, and this thing came down, I filmed it, landed on South Mountain. I go out there to investigate, thinking I'm going to find a crop circle, some kind of evidence of a spaceship, right? Because that's what we've been led to believe is crafts, right? Spaceships, little gray men, right? That's what we were taught all these years. That's what Hollywood movies teach us. That's what these so-called UFO researchers teach us, these spaceships and crafts. And so that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking like everybody else. I go out there looking for some kind of evidence. What do I find? I find a great huge boulder and a carving of the exact same thing that I filmed the day before. A guy looking up at this orb, and I see spirals. Then I start to remember, I start to think about Dave, what I saw him on television. Called him up, got a hold of him, said, Dave, dude, saw you on the news, saw you on a TV show talking about the glyphs on South Mountain. I'm doing a little documentary. I'd like for you to teach me the ways of South Mountain, teach me the ways of the petroglyphs, teach me the ways of the Native Americans. That's what I do. I was adopted So I don't know my real parents. I'm an orphan, and I was adopted into the Woolwine family. And my adoptive mother always loved the Native American culture. I was brought up in this. We always loved the Native American culture. She always took me to all the Native American art shows and museums and oh my gosh, she had some Native American friends. They used to come and visit me all the time and draw up real cool kachinas for me, you know. So I was brought up, I was brought up with the Native Americans, you know. I always had them around me. They were great. And so, I called up Dave and I'm like, dude, I saw you. Let's talk about the petroglyphs. And so we go up there and he's telling me about how the lizardmen were here, how the Hohokam people didn't know how to live here. The Hohokam were the first Native Americans who settled here in Phoenix, Arizona over 1,000 years ago. He's talking about these lizard people, how the lizard people came up out of the sand world because the Hohokam people didn't know how to survive, didn't know how to live. So the lizard people came up from the sand world, down from the heavens. They taught these people how to survive. They taught them the secret incantations, the secret ways in which mankind were not meant to know about. Talked about the giants, how the giants were here in Phoenix, Arizona. Talked about the spirals, how these spirals are portholes or doorways for the spirits. Now, is he saying crafts? Is he saying spaceships? Absolutely not. He is saying spirits. He's saying when the spirals are going clockwise, it's a doorway in. A spiral going counterclockwise is a doorway out. When a spiral ends down, it's probably that crack in the stone. That is the emergence point. That is the doorway to the underworld. Now, when he's teaching me all this stuff, I'm thinking, spaceships, man, nuts and bolts technology, yo, what's up with this, right? Because I'm thinking about, aliens coming down, with crafts and Native Americans having alien babies in their closets, stuff that you hear, And he's telling me something completely different. He's teaching me something completely different. We spent a few hours up there on South Mountain and we went over pretty much everything. I was really intrigued on how he was talking about the giants, because earlier on I was finding evidence a big stone block, huge block boulder has been stacked on top of each other to make a wall, and some of these tombs that I discovered out there in Phoenix, with these huge boulders, in place of the doorways to keep people out. And I'm like, wow, the giants, dude. And I'm finding petroglyphs of giants, and so that really intrigued me, and especially when he went into the Superstition Mountains, right? Because everybody, the Superstition Mountains, everybody's familiar with the Lost Dutchman's gold mine. Well, to Native Americans, that mountain is way more sacred than some Dutchman losing his gold up there on the mountain. This goes back into biblical days, goes back into the days of the flood. It's interesting, because stuff that I find credible is like some of these ancient texts that we read, that's been written, 3,000 to 7,000 years ago. And they talk about these things in the sky. And one thing that, really boggles my mind, it's like, so if some of these scholars and some of these so-called UFO expert researchers they want to talk about these texts, and they want to say that these spaceships, the crafts came down. The aliens came in spaceships and UFO flying saucers, and they came down. But when you read the text, it says nothing to do about that. Nothing to do about spaceships, crafts, anything. as far as you could tell, anyway, as far as them leaving, the Anunnaki text, the Sumerian text, says that some left and some stayed behind. Does it say a spaceship? No. And, back then, they didn't understand what a craft was. So if they're going to try to explain on something leaving up into the heavens, I would think that they would say, because they had boats back then, right? I would think that they said that they would write everyone piled up into a flying boat, and they sailed up into the heavens. Do you see any text, anything that says anything about a flying craft, a flying boat, anything like that? No, you see fiery chariots, right? Elijah's fiery chariot, Ezekiel's flying wheel, but look at it. Let's examine that stuff. Has eyes that seem to go around, a wheel within a wheel. Is that, really talking about a spaceship, or is it talking about something else? Is it talking about maybe a creature? It tells you 4 living creatures, man. We're flying. Some of these biblical texts, it even tells you that some of these creatures or aliens or whatever had wings. Look at the Anunnaki statues. Look at the wings on them. Did they really have wings? Or was it an art interpretation explaining that this person could fly? Was it really wings that they had? Or was it the artist trying to tell you that this person could fly? So you don't see him up in the sky. You see him physically in front of you. And he can fly. So the artist is putting in wings, making it seem like he can fly because he's got wings, right? That's a different story. So when we read some of these credible ancient texts, and then we go out there on the rock art, especially when it comes to the giants. My God, dude. I mean, look at the Nephilim story. Look at Genesis 6. I'm not throwing religion at you, man. I'm looking at these texts for possible explanations, for possible answers to what's here in our world. And the evidence has been here the whole time. Now, when we look at it, and when we look at some of these texts, not in a religious way, but in a way that makes it Earth's history. If we examine these texts and look at it at Earth's history, it all makes sense, okay? It tells you what these beings are. It tells you everything you want to know about the Earth. And yet these scholars and UFO so-called expert researchers, they are dismissing this, or they are putting their own interpretations in there and putting crafts in there, not living creatures, living entities that can fly and shapeshift and morph like the Indians are telling us, right? They're changing shape. They're morphing. We're going to get into that on today's show. So they totally dismiss all this stuff that's been written here, all this evidence for the last 6,000, 7,000 years or so, give or take. Because that's religion, right? They don't want to look at that. Don't throw religion. But when we examine it, when we look at the text, and then we go out there and examine the rock art, especially when it comes to the giants, how the Nephilim came down, and from there they took the brides of the women and bore giants, and then the flood to wipe out the giants. And it's all prehistoric photographed on the rocks, because that's what these carvings are. They're prehistoric photographs of something that took place. They didn't have cameras back then. They had these boulders and these mountains there in areas on where the events took place at. So when you see the rock art, when you see the petroglyphs out there, in certain spots around the grounds, around the landscape, around the mountains, that's a living testament. Not living, but it's a prehistoric photograph testament of what happened in that area. That petroglyph panel is what happened in the area. And you have to look at the whole landscape, not just the art. Step back. Step back from that art. Absorb the landscape. See what the artist is talking about. Because he's putting the landscape in with the photograph. He wants you to remember what happened here. So Dave talks about the giants, man. He's talking about this Superstition Mountain out there. And he's like, the flood was coming. The Hopis say we're in the fourth world. This is one of the worlds. This is one of the times when man started over again with water. And the flood was coming to wipe out these giants. And the lead giant told him to run up on this rock. Run up on this boulder. I want all my people to run up on the boulder. And he used his powers to raise that boulder up. The water kept coming. Used his powers to raise that boulder up. Water kept coming. He used his powers so much, by now the boulder has turned into a high mountain. But the water kept coming. And there's evidence today in the Valley of the Sun in Phoenix, Arizona, that there was water as high as some of these mountains. There's weathering way high up on the tops of the peaks of these mountains. I know, I was there. I climbed it. I saw. There's weathering high up in the valley on these mountains in Phoenix, Arizona. Yes, Phoenix, Arizona was underwater. It was a huge lake. The water kept coming. So in his last bit of strength, because he didn't want his people to die, to drown, he turned them all to stone. And when he did that, that is when the flood waters stop. And now today you can look upon the Superstition Mountains. You can see the water line on where the flood had stopped. Look up higher, you can still see today those giants all turned to stone. Yeah. All those giants have been turned to stone and are still there on top of the Superstition Mountains. And the lead giant, he's on the bottom, on the east side. Significant east side, people. East side. East side in a praying position. There's other giants around him also that have been turned to stone. There's a giant on Camelback Mountain in Phoenix, Arizona, who was turned to stone. You can see him up there on the mountain, up on the ridge. Some people call it Mummy Mountain. But you can still see him. He's up there. He's turned to stone. What about all these other giant and stone legends or myths? Bryce Canyon, for one. All those were all giants. They're all turned to stone. Is it a myth? Or is it part of our history? So doing investigations in Phoenix, because a year has gone by now, right? I'm filming these things. I'm filming the flying snakes in the sky. And I'm taking the stuff to the news. I proved that the Native Americans were carving, these UFOs in the sky. I was the first one to do that, to actually, match these flying serpents, these phoenix lights, these flying diamonds and orbs to the petroglyph carvings on the mountains of Phoenix, Arizona. I was the first one to ever do that. And, I wrote an article for UFO Magazine. I went on to do the pilot for the UFO Hunter Show. From there, I did the History Channel in 2007. I did True TV. I've been with Jaime Maussan a few times. So, I'm getting this information out. And I'm trying to explain to the UFO community, look, you know, I went down this road thinking spaceships. But over this past year, I have gathered up enough evidence, enough credible data to suggest that this is not spaceships that we're dealing with here. These are living entities. This is not nuts and bolts technology, people. These are living creatures. The Phoenix Lights is a living being. You see 5 lights out there, you're looking at 5 living creatures. Not mechanical UFOs, not a V-shaped craft. Each light is the being itself. Each light is the creature. One of my examples, look at the lightning bug. Look at the firefly. You know how he lights up? That's how he was created. This is how these beings were created. They are living entities. Living, I'm not going to say organisms, but they're another life form. They're another animal, if you will. Another presence. But at that time, you're like, well, dude, you're matching the petroglyphs. But, you know, if you're going to talk about them, you have to say spaceships. You have to say crafts, because the people are not ready for this yet. You know, you're so far in advance. The public isn't ready for this. And I'm thinking to myself, you know what? The public better get ready, because the damn things are here and they've always been here, you know? And because of misinformation, you know, and people just trying to get famous without doing their investigations like I have, who's never been on the mountain or investigated the petroglyphs like I have, who's never seen these things up close in person like I have, are just writing books about nothing, about other people's so-called experiences on spaceships and little gray guys, and that's all fine and dandy, sure. I don't see any evidence of that. I don't see any credible evidence. Are crafts real? Could be. I'm not getting me wrong on that. Don't get me wrong. Crafts could be real. Spaceships and little gray guys could be real. I'm not saying that they're not real. I have seen some things in the sky that could resemble a craft. So don't get me wrong. But what I'm saying is the majority of what the public is seeing in the skies today is not a spaceship, but living creatures. You see these orbs out there. You see these lights out there. Okay? Shape-shifting things that resemble balloons. We're going to talk about it. We're going to show you a video. Today's show. They're living creatures. They're living beings. They're not aliens in technology. But I'm open to that. I'm ready to see some proof. I'm ready to see some evidence. Not hoaxes of people making these, you know, clay flying saucers and claiming that it's 5,000 years old and they found it in Mexico. Bullshit, man. Or computer-generated spaceships. Or computer-generated aliens in closets. Right? I'm talking about hardcore facts that we can prove. And I'm sorry, but the petroglyphs is a living testimony of what we are seeing in the skies today. Not only that, but the texts, these old scrolls, these old texts, match the rock art. There's one link. And then the other link, the cherry on top, is what we are seeing in the skies today. That match the petroglyphs, that match the stories that we read in these old texts. So a year goes by, and I'm out there filming these creatures. I'm doing news reports. I'm finding out. I'm crossing my T's and I'm dotting my I's, and I'm learning that we're not dealing with spaceships. We're dealing with creatures. And the Hohokam Indians dealt with these creatures before because they carved their stories on the rocks. I understand now the rocks. I understand now the petroglyphs on what they're talking about. Because I see these things in the sky. I was taught by a shaman on what the doors look like and what the doors are meaning, what the spirals are talking about, you know, what the lizard people and the strange things in carved in the sky. I understand the story now. You know, I'm out there and I'm finding altars, sacrificing altars. I'm finding Mayan petroglyphs, right? Mayans were with the Hohokam Indians. I'm finding evidence of that. I'm finding petroglyphs. I'm finding tombs. I found 4 tombs on South Mountain. A year's gone by, man, and I did a news report with the archaeologist here in Phoenix. Probably the first time ever that a UFO researcher got a city archaeologist out in public to talk about UFOs and carvings. I don't think that's ever happened before, but I did it. And you know what that guy's saying? That guy's so full of shit. You know, I brought all this information down from the mountain. I'm throwing it in his face, and he's denying it. You know, him and his crew only spent 5 years on the mountain. I spent 15 years on the mountain. I doubled, tripled that. I spent more years, more time, more hours on South Mountain than anybody else has exploring. And this guy, with his 5 years of climbing and research, is going to tell me? Dude, I've been all over that place. I found stuff you probably never even seen before. I found evidence that, you know, you don't talk about in your book. The archaeologist's book, he draws his petroglyphs out. He draws them. He doesn't show photographs like in my book. He doesn't, and look how big those photographs are, see? He draws his petroglyphs there in this book because he wants you to understand that, well, he is manipulating what's there. For instance, there's a guy there, there's a petroglyph there. I'm going to show you on today's show. There's a petroglyph panel of a guy with an elongated head, elongated skull, right? Much like what we find in Peru, these ancient ones with the long head. And instead of drawing that long head, he draws a little circle head, a regular man head, things like that. The photographs of the petroglyphs he does put in his book are like maybe 5 inches, and you can't even barely see the glyphs in there. And maybe, 3 or 4 pages of colored photographs of small, and the rest he draws in because this is what his interpretations are. This is what this is what he wants you to believe. He is adding to the cover-up story that's here. I'm finding all this stuff. I'm talking to the archaeologist. He's not, it's just getting nowhere. A year, man, goes on. So now I decide to go to the Phoenix Library. I go to the Phoenix Library. I go up on the 4th floor in a type of, it's called an Arizona room, but it's like a government room for like Arizona. So I asked the secretary, give me everything you have on South Mountain. And oh my God, dude, she comes back with a folder like this. And I open it up, and all the stuff that I discovered a year prior to this is verified in this folder by the first park ranger, Charles Holbert, from the 1930s. He's talking about giants. He's talking about gold. He's talking about sacrificing. He's talking about where these Hohokam people really disappeared to. And who did he learn them all from? The Native Americans who trusted Charles and told Charles what South Mountain really was, how holy and sacred it was. Told Charles the true name of South Mountain is Mount Sepoa, Mountain of Mercy. because there was sacrifice going on there to the Phoenix Lights, to these creatures in the sky. Talks about the spirits of the earth and sky. Oh my God, dude, he went into everything. He's got all these journals, all this stuff, all these writings. And as I've said before in past shows, you know, Charles Holbrook just wasn't some everyday Joe. I mean, he was like majorly important in at least 5 states on the West Coast. In California, Arizona, New Mexico, Utah. I found so much information on this guy in other libraries across the West Coast of the United States. You know, so, and he's talking about how there's gold on South Mountain. And he's talking about how he was chasing people away from these tombs that were located with gold left by the Hohokams and Mayans. Like I said before, I'm finding Mayan petroglyphs out there. I'm finding Mayan evidence. And yet, here the first park ranger of the 1930s is verifying everything I discovered out there. Oh my God, that's the cherry on top. That's just more credible evidence. I am not saying anything that hasn't been said before. I am bringing this information back to the public. This is my discovery. This is my research. This is petroglyphs in the sky. This is what the Phoenix Lights really is. It is a part of Phoenix, Arizona. These lights just didn't happen, you know, one time, March 13th, 1997. This shit's been going on for well over 2,000 years. And there's a pattern to it. There's a pattern. Over the 3.5 years I stayed on South Mountain, I learned that certain parts of the months or certain parts of the seasons, there were a lot here. And in other seasons, they were gone. The Hohokam people tracked the sun. They were sky watchers. They tracked the sun. They didn't worship the sun. They felt he was a tyrant god, but they watched him. They tracked him in the sky. And they erected these petroglyphs and these carvings and these boulders towards the east on the morning sunrise of the equinox and the solstice in such a way that it cast shadows on the rocks, on the boulders, through the spirals, makes Indian profile faces. And the archaeologist wants us to believe, okay, yeah, they did all that stuff. So now they know that it's time to plant corn. Really? They're going to make all that trouble just to know when to plant corn? They're gonna move these boulders, they're going to carve, they're going to erect these huge shadows and stuff, and so they know when to plant corn? Really? And people are buying this? Come on, man. All over the world. Stonehenge, other, geoglyphs and other carvings and other stone structures around the world is oriented towards the morning sunrise for the equinox and the solstice. The autumn equinox, things like this. Why? It's not to plant corn, but it's to inform them they're tracking these UFOs. They're tracking these spirits in the sky. Because they are bouncing, they're following the sun. They are bouncing from one energy spot to the next energy spot to the next energy spot through the cycles of the changing of the seasons of the year. That first year, I noticed they were here, here, here. Those months after the equinox, they were gone. Here comes the solstice. Now they're back, right? It was a pattern. The second year, it repeated itself. The third year, it repeated itself. And that was the secret on how to see these creatures in the sky. I got people coming up to me, dude, I was up on South Mountain and I didn't see shit. Well, what month did you go? What season were you there? What direction were you looking? What part of the mountain were you at? There's just so much. It's not just go up there and see it. You have to know where to look, when to look, how to look. And see, I didn't know all that. I learned from personal experience. on how to track these beads in the sky, what they were actually doing. So remember I said in the beginning, these lights are over the power plant on the east side of South Mountain. The power plant's bored down into South Mountain. That is the source. That is the whole idea. That's the whole key on why these creatures are here at South Mountain, is because of that fault line. South Mountain was created by a fault line. So when the sun aligns with these natural energy sources around the earth, such as volcanoes, if you will, or ley lines, or fault lines, if you will, the sun gets in the right position, it opens up these portholes. It opens up these doorways. So the Native Americans say that these beings are going down into the underworld. Well, on a scientific level, on a scientific understanding, they're going down into that fault line. They're absorbing the energy. It could explain on why they're all lit up. They're absorbing that energy. They're sucking up that energy. They're glowing. It's not headlights in front of their crafts because they need to see if they're going to hit a meteorite or something. I mean, these lights, they're absorbing the energy. Makes sense. If you had a belly full of energy, you're going to glow too, like that, man. You're going to have a belly full of fusion. And that was the seed. That was the clue there. That was the explanation on why that mountain was so holy. It's because for thousands of years, these creatures has always visited the valley, has always been here on South Mountain. So let's talk about what Charles Holbrook says what happened to these Hohokam Indians. Now, the archaeologist wants us to believe that the Hohokam Indians was such a peace-loving, race of people who never went to war with anybody, and then simply they got too hot, so they migrated somewhere else. That's what the explanation is here on where the Hohokam people went and what the archaeologists say. Now let's look at the facts. Let's look at the evidence. Let's look at what we can prove, because that's hearsay. Can't prove that, because if you could, you'd find out where they went. But the archaeologist is failing to tell you that when the Hohokam left, they didn't take anything with them. They left everything, and they just simply vanished. I mean, when you and I move, we take our luggage with us. At least a set of clothes, right? Some weapons for hunting and gathering. Nope. They left that shit there and simply took off. Oh, that's okay, though. The archaeologist, oh, sure. Yeah, that's all right. Bye-bye. See you next time. That's what he wants you to believe. But the evidence suggests a completely different story. Here's what the petroglyphs talk about. Here's what the oral tradition says from the Native Americans whose ancestors from generation upon generation upon generation upon generation has been telling these stories to their kids, to their kids, to their kids, all the way up to what now today. Now, this information is here with us. And here's what it says. When the Hohokam people first got here, now let's examine what the Hohokam name means. Hohokam is a Pima name for the people who are missing. Pimas are a type of Indian tribe here in the desert in Southwest, the Pimas. They consider themselves ancestors to the Hohokam people. And also the Tohono O'odham tribe here in the Southwest. They consider themselves ancestors also to the Hohokam. Hohokam means the people who are missing, the people who got taken away. Not the people who walked away, not the people who just migrated. The people who are missing, the people who got taken away. The Hohokams first arrived here along with the Mayans. Mayans were here. And this only makes sense because, way back there in the day when you do your homework, when you do your history, you'll know that Arizona, parts of Arizona, was Mexico also. Mexico extended all the way into parts of California and most of Arizona. So yeah, we were part of Mexico at one certain time. So of course the Mayans were going to be here. Some would even say that the Hohokam people were the Mayans. I would agree with that. I'd go along with that. Sure, why not? I'm open. Sure. And so when they first got here, they didn't know how to live. And it wasn't a tropical-like landscape. Or, I'm sorry. It wasn't a desert. It was a tropical-like landscape. We can see the evidence from all the waterfalls, the dried up waterfalls on the mountains. We can see the evidence of the streams. There was plenty of water here in this valley. It wasn't a desert. And so these people arrived here. They were probably following the lights. I mean, why would they come here in the first place? And I really think that they came from Mexico. They came from that part of the world, part of the Aztecs or the Mayans. They came from that area because they were following these Phoenix lights to this area. There's no evidence of this, but it's just my guess on why they would even show up here in the first place, unless they're out hunting and gathering and then all of a sudden they see their gods in the sky. That's possible, sure. But I'm starting to, go on more inclined that they followed the lights like I did. They followed the lights to the mountain. And they settled here because that's where they saw their spirits. That's where they saw their gods. There was gold here brought by the Mayans. There were sacrificing tables here. Sacrificing was going on during the changing of the seasons. There were rituals and things like that, and these beings actually came down from the sky, up from the sand world. They taught these people how to live. They taught these people the secret incantations, the secret ways in which man was not meant to understand. I even believe that there was pyramids out here. The archaeologist doesn't want to admit that the Spanish was even here, the Spanish conquistadors. But myself and Charles Holbrook know that they were. I mean, when you look at my book, you can see the artifacts that I discovered on South Mountain. You can see the battle that took place between the Indians and the Spanish conquistadors. And you can find the evidence in my book, and you can see the artifacts that I dug up, that I found. From that battle, there was a battle there. The archaeologist doesn't believe that the Spanish was even here. But Charles Holbrook tags this area as the lost city of Cibola, the lost city of gold. Why would the first park ranger highlight his story? Why would he name his story the lost city of Cibola? You can find this information on my website. Those of you who are following my YouTube channel, on my videos, there's a link under my videos in which you can check out my website. And right there, Charles Holbrook, and you can see his paperwork, his writings. It was a little folder. It was like a little brochure he used to hand out. This is what he taught people. Taught people the Mayans were here. Taught people that there was tombs out here. Matter of fact, there's in his son's book, I read his son's writings. His son describes on how his father was chasing people away from the gold tombs on South Mountain. So why would he say, the lost city of Cibola, the lost city of gold? If he really didn't believe that there was gold here. If he didn't think that these tombs was anything to bother with, then he'd let these people dig them up. No, he chased people off South Mountain away from these gold tombs. Because he knew what was there. How did they get there? Okay, let's get into this. So, it was 1,000 years, all right? And they carved their testimonies down on these rocks and the boulders on this sacred mountain formerly known as Mount Sepoa, now named South Mountain, Phoenix, Arizona. You know, they named Phoenix, Arizona from the fiery ashes of the former civilization. But they don't want to tell you what the former civilization was. I'm here to do that. I'm here to tell you what this former civilization was here in Phoenix, Arizona, that the archaeologist knows about, but is not telling you. But the evidence is suggesting this. My discoveries, all my years of research, this is the lost city of Phoenix, Arizona. This is the lost history of Phoenix, Arizona, that I'm telling you. You're not going to hear it anywhere else. I'm bringing it, but there's evidence. You're going to look it up in the library. Go to Phoenix Library, Burton Bar. I dare you. I'm challenging you to come here to Phoenix, Arizona. Go to the Burton Bar Library in Phoenix. Go up to the Arizona Room. Ask for the folder on South Mountain. There you'll see Charles Holberg talking about the exact same thing that I'm telling you now. Look at my photos. Look at my videos that I have brought down from the mountain. Examine the evidence. Here's what it says. This went on for 1,000 years. The Mayans and the Hohokam people here, they saw the lights. They carved down their stories or carved down their testimonies. And then one day, for reasons unknown, the sacrificing had stopped. And that's when things started to dry up. And by then, and the spirits were gone. The Phoenix Lights, they weren't around no more. Only on certain times, every once in a while. But it wasn't like it was used to be, with major waterfalls down the mountains and streams of water beds and lush green. No, it's dying. It's dying. You stopped the sacrifice. You stopped the bloodshedding of man on the holy mountain, on the holy rocks. You stopped. And now the seasons are changing. The place is getting hotter. The area has become dry and dead because you stopped the sacrifice. You stopped the blood of man on the holy mountain. This is your punishment. Now you must live in this dry, desolate wasteland. So all the tribal men were afraid now because everything was dying off, and they were yelling at their leaders and saying, "Why did you stop the sacrifice? Look what's going on in our land now. It's drying up. It's a desert. We haven't seen any inch of rain. There's no water. We haven't seen the sky spirits in months. Why did you stop the blood from pouring down the rocks on this sacred mountain as the spirits, as these Phoenix Lights suggested that we do?" Well, then, all of a sudden, the Native Americans, what they say is what Holberg says that the devil came down out of the heavens, down out of the sky, came from the east, and took these people away. Remember this. Remember all this. We're going to get to the reasons of all this here. We're going to show you the petroglyphs. So remember this story. Remember how they came down and took these people away. They carried them off. They took them off. The Phoenix Lights, the flying serpents, the orbs, the flying diamonds came down from the east and took these people away. How did they take them away? I'm going to show you photographs. I'm going to show you photographs, prehistoric photographs on how these people were taken away, carried up into the sky, and never seen again from this Valley of the Sun. We're going to show you photographs. I'm going to show you how it happened. I'm going to show you the history. So the leaders were all afraid. They saw what was going on. Some people ran in caves to hide. They were afraid. They didn't want to get taken away by these spirits. They didn't want to get taken away by the Phoenix Lights. They didn't want to get taken away by Cosaquaro. They were afraid. And when it was all over with, the tribal leaders knew that it was wrong to stop the sacrifice. They knew it was wrong. That's what happened to their people. So they committed suicide on the sacrificing tables. And then the survivors of this, they were afraid, and they knew if they were going to continue to live in this dry, desolate wasteland now, that eventually they would have to go back to war with these spirits, aka the Phoenix Lights, back to war with these spirits of the earth and sky. They knew that it was they knew it was going to happen. If they're going to live here, this is because they've already lived here. They lived here 1,000 years. They saw the creatures. They knew what was going on here, the shape-shifting entities. And now they got taken away by these creatures, by these lights. And so they're not going to live here no more. They cursed this land. They cursed the Valley of the Sun. They cursed Phoenix, and they vowed never to return here again. So they buried the gold. And Charles Holbrook writes in his journals, that you can see on my website, that he was told from the Native Americans at that time that the gold was as high as the tallest saguaro cactus and as round and big as the sun. That's a lot of gold, man. That's a fortune in gold that's buried on South Mountain. Today, right now, it's still there. There's a ton of fortune of Mayan gold and Hohokam gold buried on South Mountain right now. That is what the archaeologist is not telling you. That is what the archaeologist is keeping away from you. This is the conspiracy of Phoenix, Arizona. They are not telling you. They want you to stay on the trails. They do not want you to go off the trails. Oh. And what do they do to make sure that people stay off the trails and don't find out about this information? They made it a government park. Why would you make this mountain a government park? That's so ironic. That's so stupid. Why did you do that? All these other mountains are fine. Why are you picking on South Mountain? Why did you make that South Mountain a government park? The answer is because when you go on there and you find the tomb, you find the gold, you will go to prison probably for the rest of your life. They don't want you digging up anything. They don't want you taking off anything. They don't want you finding anything. That's all their land because they know that there's gold there. They know that what is going on there. They know in the stories and all these urban legends, if you want to say, that the Phoenix Lights is protecting the gold on South Mountain. They know this. That's why they don't want you to go over there and dig it up. I say we dig up at least one tomb on South Mountain. You can look at my book. Look at my website. You can see the tomb on my website, one of them. Look at the photographs, man. It's something there. There is something there. I've had so many people. I take people there. I've had so many people telling me, look, yeah, there's something buried there. And it's buried. It's oriented towards a pyramid mountain hill. It's in a pyramid, man. And they don't want you to know that. This is the reason why the archaeologist is not saying anything and making and covering up this big conspiracy. Because they're not telling you exactly what happened to these people. And so they all took off. They buried the gold. They vowed never to come back into this van or into this valley. They cursed this Valley of the Sun, saying, whoever lives here again is going to have to go back to war with these spirits of the earth and sky. And they took off. They went back to Mexico. They stopped off at Casa Grande, and they showed people how to live there. They showed them how to make adobe structures and how to make canals from their ancestors, from their teachings. Then they ended up taking off, went back to Mexico. And so for 400 years, nobody lived in this desert. There was Indians on the outskirts of the valley. They saw the lights, they saw the flying serpents, they saw the orbs, they saw this crazy shit going on, and they were afraid, and rightly they should be. because they knew what happened to their ancestors. They knew what happened to their people. They knew the curse that dwells within the valley of the sun, now known as Phoenix, Arizona. There's a curse here on this land. There's a curse. And the Phoenix Lights is a part of that curse. It's the reason why these Hohokam people disappeared. They saw the lights. They took it a step further. They dealt with the lights. They interacted with the lights. And in the long run, they came up missing. Now we're seeing the lights. So what does that say about our future? It was 400 years until eventually the Native Americans started to come back to this land. And they're just saying, oh, it's just a myth. That's not real. That's not what happened. You know, it took 400 years, you know, for people to start to come back here until the Indians started to come back and live. That's when the Spanish arrived here looking for the lost city of gold. That's when there was an ambush on South Mountain between the Indians. The Indians ambushed the Spanish conquistadors on South Mountain. It's in my book. And so then in the 1800s or whatever, I can't remember now, Jack Swelling and his men came up over the west part of the valley, over the White Tank Mountains, looked upon the land, saw the Hohokam structures, saw the canals, and thought, what a great place to farm. Because all the Indians' tools were still there. All the artifacts, some of the structures were there. Clearly, I mean, even in today's society, we still use some of the Hohokam canal systems. The Hohokams were masters of the canals in their day. And to this day, we still use some of their canals. It's more sophisticated now with concrete and things like that. But basically, all these canals that you see in Phoenix was done by the Hohokam Indians. That's where all these canals came from. Jack Swelling started bringing people back. First started in Mesa. From there, I think they call it Mesa City or Mesa Valley. That's what they called it, Mesa Valley. And then from there, because more and more people were showing up. Oh, and let's talk about Jack Swelling real quick. So he wasn't a very nice guy. He has killed people for he was a murderer, right? He was in the Indian War and things like that, and he had some Indian friends that were with him, but he was not a nice guy. Okay, and after he settled here in Mesa Valley, now Phoenix, Arizona, but back then he called it Mesa Valley. He got locked up on an unrelated charge that he didn't even do, and he died in the jail in Mesa Valley. Isn't that ironic? The curse. It was the curse. He didn't do that, but he died there. He did other stuff that he didn't get convicted for. But the one murder that they pinned on him, he actually didn't do it. And because he came back to this valley, he got locked up. This part of the curse. He got locked up and he died in the jail. And from there, the city started to grow more. And they understood that there was a former civilization here. So they ended up eventually calling it Phoenix, the fiery bird that rose up from the ashes of the former civilization. But they don't tell you, they didn't realize that the story of these people was left on the mountains around the valley. These mountains are sacred scrolls. They're sacred photographs of what happened in this Valley of the Sun. And it talks about some bizarre and strange and incredible stories. And when we look at it at face value, you're going to go, man, that's heavy. And it is. It is incredible. It is incredible what these Hohokam people went through. It was just amazing. And to interact with these creatures from the sky, with the Phoenix Lights, and how they morphed and shapeshifted in front of them, and how they played games with them up into the sky. And how these beings came down and picked people up. How they came down and absorbed people. Not put them in a spaceship. It came down and picked people up. They absorbed them and brought them up into the sky. And we're gonna show photographs of what happened to the Hohokam people, and we're gonna finally understand why the Hohokam Indians were carving balloons on the mountains around the Valley of the Sun. Why are they carving balloons? So many petroglyphs of what we think are balloons. But what if they're not? Okay, let's get on with it. So much stuff to talk about. So much things to talk about. But before we go into that, let's get into the announcements. I always babble before I start doing this. Okay, so check out my paranormal webpage, my paranormal YouTube page, Haunted Encounter Adventures. Check it out. Follow me on YouTube. Let's build that page up. Help me get that page out. I do ghost investigations, and my last investigation, I just got back from the Casa Grande domes out there in Casa Grande. So my wife and I, we did a ghost investigation out there with Arizona Ghost Hunters. AZ Ghost Adventures, AZ Ghost Hunter, AZ Ghost Hunters. Yeah, check those guys out. They're great people. So we teamed up and we did an investigation out there at the Casa Grande domes. And so yeah, that is the I'm currently working on that episode. And there's other episodes that my wife and I did. We investigated this haunted cabin. That's always fun. We went out there and we did a seance in Las Vegas. Check that out. And we do a lot of stuff in Tombstone, Arizona. So yeah, check that out. Haunted Encounter Adventures. And please subscribe to that page. Okay, so here's my book, The Phoenix Lights, Petroglyphs in the Sky, Landscape for the Spirits, True Stories, Myths, Legends, and UFOs over Phoenix. Get yourself a copy right now before they all come up missing, just like what the Hohokam did. This is not going to last forever. Make sure you get your copy today. This goes into 15 years of physical and hard research that I've done in Phoenix, Arizona. I talk about the petroglyphs, how to understand the petroglyphs. It talks about the tombs, and talks about what the Phoenix Lights really is, as we just talked about. Talks about, all the things that you can find up there on South Mountain. And so yeah, this is not a regular UFO book. It's more of a history book. It's the lost history of Phoenix, Arizona, and it explains on what the Phoenix Lights is, what happened to the Hohokam people. And so yeah, lots of colored photographs, no drawing and misrepresentation like the archaeologist wants you to believe, but proven facts and photographs. If you can't come to the mountain and explore the mountain yourself, I bring the mountain down to you in this book. And also, in all my other shows that I've done, look for me on the internet, search my name, Jeff Woolwine. You'll see all the interviews and radio shows and explorers that I've done here. All the information is on the internet. You can find out who I am and what I do, and you can see all the petroglyphs. And so yeah, the Phoenix Lights, Landscape for the Spirits, Petroglyphs in the Sky. Check it out. Find out what the Phoenix Lights really is. Find out what happened to the Hohokam Indians. Take a look at the tombs that are there on South Mountain. And yeah, maybe one day we can get out there and do a real archaeology adventure, or what am I trying to say here? We need to go out there and dig up one tomb. How about that? Need to go out there and check and open up one tomb. So either whether it's going to be in my generation or the next generation, hopefully my information that I brought down, that I discovered, it will intrigue somebody out there to actually go over there and start digging up these tombs and uncover Arizona's true history, and validate the stories from the Hohokam and everything else. So yeah, we need to open up one tomb on South Mountain, at least one. Okay, For Real, I always get tongue-tied on this. For Real Watchers Radio Show. Jerry and Brett, contact these guys for any paranormal stuff or any UFOs. And great guys. Check them out on their YouTube page. I believe they have a Facebook page. So check these guys out. And they're awesome people. Tell them Jeff Woolwine sent you. For Real Watchers Radio Show. Check these guys out worldwide, man. It's worldwide, people. Check them out. They're awesome. Great people. And tell them Jeff Woolwine sent you. And have a great time. Okay, Vulture City, Polar Paracon Part 2. Coming at you live once again. Out here in Vulture City Mine. And I forgot where it's located at. I want to say it's not Prescott. I want to say, I don't know. Vulture City, Paracon. I'll think of it here in a minute. J. Marie Yates, great people, doing ghost hunts out there in Vulture City Mines. And so many good speakers are going to be out there. We're going to be doing a ghost investigation, and we're going to talk about ghosts and talk about the history of the Vulture City Mines and out there in Arizona. And make sure that you get your tickets early, because they're going to go quick. And so October 8th, 9th, and 10th. And I'm going to be there. Yours truly will be there. And this is going to be the first time ever UFO Skywatch out there at Vulture City Mines. So, we're talking about fault lines and everything and energy patterns and stuff like that, and it attracts energy. Well, there's lights that have been seen out there. I talk to Jay Marie on a constant basis. They always keep me updated. And they're seeing things out there in the sky. And it's because there's a fault line that runs right next to the Vulture City Mines. So, yeah, we're going to talk about UFOs. We're going to hunt down UFOs. Bring your books. I'll be doing autographs out there. Let's do a meet and greet. Let's talk about UFOs. Let's talk about the Phoenix Lights. And let's talk about the real history of Phoenix, Arizona, and do a ghost hunt together at the Vulture City Mine. Paracon Part 2. And I can't remember where it's at. Don't you hate it when you just get a blank? Okay, just search it on the internet, you guys. Vulture City, Paracon. Find Jane Marie Yates on Facebook, or just go to the Vulture City website. You can find out all the information there. Make sure that you book ahead, and make sure that you get you spend a couple nights with us there. So you're gonna want to get a hotel room. All right, are you ready? Are you ready to find out, to see photographs, to see prehistoric photographs of what happened to the Hohokam Indians? And why the Indians are carving balloons on the mountains? Are you ready? Because, so many people, dude. So many people are out there, they film these things in the sky. They post it on the internet. It's exactly what happened to this UFO video that we're going to show here. This poor soul, I believe it was a woman. She filmed this creature flying across Chandler, Arizona. It's just this little city outside of Phoenix. It's in the valley. And she puts it on the web, puts it on Facebook. And because so many people are looking for spaceships and crafts, and little gray guys, they don't know a real UFO from a damn hole in the ground. They're saying, oh, they've got a string on it. It's a balloon. Because they've been brainwashed all these years. I'm thinking spaceships and crafts and stuff like that, and now, unfortunately, there's supposed to be some kind of disclosure from the government, and that's never going to happen, dude. The first conspiracy, the first cover-up is we're seeing weather balloons. Now we're seeing flares. Now, all of a sudden, see, they know what the hell is here. All right, they understand the history of the Phoenix Lights. They know what is here. Okay, they always know. And they've been doing this way before we have. So they've been seeing them way before we have. And they even understand, the history of these beings in the sky. And this is why they will never, never come with disclosure. So many people are seeing them now today. The military's, been videotaping these things. So they can't, actually deny that there's not anything here anymore. So now they're going to mislead you on thinking, well, maybe spaceships are here. Maybe they are crafts. Okay. Well, they know what it is. They know it's not a craft. What these military pilots are filming, these pilots probably don't know. They think it's a craft. But the people who are on top of all this, they understand that's not a spaceship they just filmed. That's a living creature. That's a living entity. Okay, it's not a spaceship. It's not technology. It's a living creature, and they know that they don't come from Alpha Centauri. They don't come from Mars. That it's their planet also. This is their planet. They have always been here. These creatures, these UFOs, they live here. These entities, these anthropomorph, shape-shifty beings has always been here on Mother Earth. This is their planet also. And the government knows this. And they will never, never come out and actually tell you exactly what's going on here. Because what did I just get done telling you about Phoenix, Arizona? What happened to these Hohokam people? We're going to show you the photographs. We're going to show you the prehistoric photographs of what happened to the Hohokam Indians. All right? They simply didn't migrate. They got taken away by the Phoenix Lights. So if the government comes out and says, oh, yeah, we're going to tell you what's going on. Okay, there's snakes. There's flying snakes from South Mountain, and the lights are changing and shaping, and they're creatures, they're living entities, and by the way, they took the Hohokam people away. What? They took them away? What? They're monsters in the sky? They're creatures? They're not alien technology? It's not spaceships? I don't understand this. I understand spaceships. I don't understand creatures. I don't understand supernatural beings. I don't understand the biblical text. I don't understand the petroglyphs. All I understand is what I was meant to be told over the last 100 years of spaceships and little green guys and things like that. So you're telling me that there's creatures out there that actually take people away and carry them off into the sky and never return. Really? Yeah. You think they're going to actually tell you that? If they did, everybody in Phoenix would scram. All the people who know about these beings would get the hell out of Dodge because they know what? The land's cursed, people. The lights are here, people. They're watching the gold tombs. They're waiting for the Mayans to come back to reclaim the gold tombs. They're waiting. They're watchers in the sky because they know eventually that everything is going to turn into the same way. Just as it was in the beginning, so it shall be in the end. They are waiting for mankind to need them once again. The Hopis say that we're in the fourth world. We're about ready to enter the fifth. And every time the world changes, man needs these beings from the sky to survive. That is the history here, people. That is what these creatures in the sky are waiting for. Because if they just come down and they shapeshift into a man or something like that, I mean, it's going to be top news for about maybe a week. But then everyone's going to have to go back to school, get back to work. They got stuff to do, man. They're not going to, worship this being anymore. But if there's no food, there's no water, all right, and 2/3 of the population is gone, and the Phoenix Light comes down, or an orb comes down, and he morphs himself into a man, and he says, look what I can do for you. I can clean up the water. I can clean up the air. I can give you food. I am the person you've been waiting for. I am your Savior. Worship me. I am your God. Everybody's going to be forced into worshiping this being from the sky, thinking that this is the Messiah or whatever that is here to help us that we've been reading about for 3,000 years. That is what they're waiting for. That is the big conspiracy here. I'm sorry if you don't believe in this, but that's where the evidence lies at. That's what the evidence suggests is going to happen eventually in our future. Are we going to see it? I don't think we're going to see it. I think it's eventually going to happen. The prophecies are really taking shape here. The 4 horsemen is run loose. The plague is out there. That's what this coronavirus and stuff is going on. Right? I mean, look at what's going on in the world today, man. Come on. And see, these beings, they don't know when the time is. They just know it's close. They don't know exactly what day it's going to happen, but they know it's close. So more and more is gathering. More and more has been released from the bottomless pit. And they're waiting. They're watchers in the sky. They're waiting until mankind once again needs them to survive. This will last, what? For a while, until those of you who've been studying know that a cube is supposed to come down out of the sky. A cube. Going to come down, land on the rock. That's a whole different story there. But when you look at the past and then you look what's going on today and you understand what's going on, you can understand the future. And these scrolls and the texts are telling us what the future holds. So let's look at the past. Let's go back into past. Let's go into history. And let's see photographs of what happened to the Hohokam Indians. So remember how it says that, remember how people are seeing these things in the sky and they see this line, right? This thing in the sky is shape-shifting, it's morphing, but they see this supposed string. Okay? That's not a string at all. Let's examine this. So a lot of people would think that this is a lizard man, okay? Because he has a tail, right? In watching these things over the years and understanding the petroglyphs and seeing these things actually shapeshift before my eyes, that dot in the middle, all right? See that dot in the middle? That is a UFO orb. Then we have another UFO orb for the head, okay? And then we have that line. We have a tail coming down from the orb. So the orb, these two orbs, these two UFOs, is actually merging together in the shape of the likeness, is mimicking a man, okay? They're anthropomorphing, as the archaeologist likes to say. So this is the orb that we see in the skies today, or light. We have another light or orb there for the head. And he's growing. Look, see the light in the middle? Okay, so there's a light in the middle. And now if you look at it closely, you can see a barbell formation in that, right? Many carvings of barbells and many barbell UFO sightings I have filmed in the sky. So we're looking at a barbell, two orbs connected together. Now it's growing. It's anthropomorphing. It's shape-shifting. It's changing shape, and it's growing a line. A line is coming down from these two UFO orbs. That is how to successfully understand this petroglyph panel, this petroglyph. It's two UFO orbs. They are connected together with a line. They're mimicking a man. Other lines are coming down and around them. It looks like a man. And he has a line coming down in which some say would be a tail. All right? Now, so remember how the Hohokams got taken away? How did they get taken away? Well, this photograph shows a line, an orb. See the line there? And then you see the orb, the UFO orb, and it's going around that man. And the line is going up into a spiral doorway. See that there? You see the man and the orb. We have other UFOs around there, but we're concentrating on the spiral door. We're concentrating on the line. And we're concentrating on another orb, on an orb, a UFO orb there. And the orb is taking a man. He's got a man inside this orb. So the correct interpretation of this petroglyph is this orb is surrounding this guy, and this line is going into the spiral doorway. So this orb UFO has taken this man into what? Another dimension, up into the sky, up into a porthole. And look how the arms are down. See how the arms are down? That usually represents death. Because when the arms are up, when the arms are raised up above their head, they're like in the appeasement pose. It's like what we do when we see them. We're like, hey, like in the appeasement pose, for a type of worship. And that's exactly what that man is doing there. Those last two petroglyphs, that was on South Mountain. This is on the White Tank Mountains. Here we have a UFO orb, and then again, we see a line. See that? It's not a string. It's not a balloon. But many would think that that's a balloon. And then we have that other object there to the lower left of it. That's the sun. But we have this orb with a line. Some would say, oh, that's a balloon. That's a balloon. Well, why would the Indians be carving balloons when there was no balloons around at that time? Why are they carving balloons? Because that's not what they were seeing, right? To us, we see it in the sky, and we assume that this thing up there with this string or line is a balloon. And it's not. I think we all need to get out of third grade and understand what balloons look like and act like and what the strings do. Okay? I just can't believe on how many people are out there, and someone is filming this creature in the sky, and it's shape-shifting. It's not acting like a balloon, and it's going in a straight line. It's on a mission. There's no wind, or it's going against the wind. Okay? And it's got this line, but people automatically assume that it's a balloon because they see this line. They see what they think is a string. And so it's going to take people off of posting real UFO activity because they're afraid now of being ridiculed by the people who they think is going to, say, yeah, that's a real UFO. That's what it is. Not bring them down and say that's a balloon. I know. I've been dealing with this for years. These people are saying, oh, dude, it's got a string. It's a balloon. Well, obviously you don't know what a balloon looks like. All right, if you're going to be that ignorant and say that some of these UFOs out there that people are filming are balloons, all right? You just don't know what a balloon is. I suggest that you go out there and film a balloon and see how it looks on camera and see what it does, see its reaction, and then go out there if you are able to see one, and go out there and film what a real UFO shapeshifter being it looks like and compare the two difference. Compare the difference between the two. You will learn. You will soon learn on what balloons look like and what these creatures look like. And it's sad because in today's world, everyone is looking for spaceships. It's bullshit hearsay. Like this craft went over Phoenix, Arizona, and they're selling this to you with no evidence on whatsoever that any kind of V-shaped spaceship went over Phoenix, Arizona. But yet they want you to believe this, so they sell movie tickets, so they sell books, so they keep this bullshit story alive, and now it's gotten way out of hand. All right? It went from 1,000 people witnessing to the whole valley, millions of people seeing this valley, this huge, massive craft going over the city of Phoenix, and nobody can take a photograph of it. Nobody can take video of it. They say it blocked out the stars and it went over the valley going 8 miles an hour, but nobody can pick up a camera and film this? Come on now. And when we have credible evidence, this is my point. When we have credible evidence here, that something that was carved in stone over 1,000 years ago of, to us, what looks like could resemble a balloon, but it's not a balloon. You know, some of these so-called UFO researchers really need to do their homework, really need to do their field investigations, and really need to go out there and actually see these beings and how they work and how they fly and how they interact and how they go on the mountains and how they follow the sun. You know, some of these people probably has never even seen a real UFO before. But they're out teaching bullshit with nothing that they can back up. This is on South Mountain, and here we see an orb. I'm pointing at the line. You see that? I'm pointing at the line. So it's an orb. It's a phoenix light, and he's morphing. He's changing. And then we have a formation of orbs over here to the upper right. We have more orbs on the bottom of your screen there. See that? And we have the formation. And again, let's take a closer look at these three formations. Right there in the middle of your screen. See that line? Do you see the line there? You can barely see it, but there's a line connecting these three orbs together. And a lot of people are saying, oh, it's a triangle ship. They see the triangle formation, and they automatically assume that this is a spaceship because it's in a triangle. Oh, it's a crap. It's a TR-3B. No, man. That's three living beings. That's three entities. And they're connecting together, the line, and maybe they're absorbing each other's energy with this line. This line uses, it's one way of from what I've seen, what I've witnessed, this line comes out of these orbs and they connect together and then they form a barbell in the sky. You know, so maybe they're using each other's energy from that line. And also you're going to learn in these photographs, these prehistoric stone photographs, that they actually use these lines to pick people up, to pick animals up into the sky. That's what these lines are used for. They are used for picking people up into the sky. Now here we go again. Look at this. So a lot of people would think that UFO, I mean, if you saw that, you know, you would think that's a balloon. If you saw that in the sky, if you witnessed this UFO, this carving, if you witnessed this in the sky, you would probably think that that's a balloon. Right? There's a UFO orb next to it. No, it's not a flower. Okay. They're not carving flowers up there. They're carving what they saw. They're making a record of what they saw. They're making a photograph of what they saw. This is what they saw. They saw a cluster of orbs, a cluster of UFOs with this line coming down from it and morphing into two other lines, and it looks like that one line on the bottom is connecting with the orb to the left. This is a prehistoric UFO sighting. And we're going to show you that. We're going to show you what this looks like in the video that we're going to show today, and what this lady filmed in Chandler, Arizona. You see that petroglyph there? We're going to see the video shortly. Stay tuned for that. Here we go again. A lot of people would think, if you saw that in the sky, you would probably think that was a balloon, right? But there is no balloons 7 to 1,000 years ago. Why would the Hohokam people carve that? What's the significance to that? That is their spirit. That is what they saw in the sky. That is not balloons. It may resemble balloons to us in our world, in our generation, but back then, it was something special. It was what they saw in the sky. Here we go again. Why would the Indians be carving balloons up there, people? This is South Mountain. This carving is done at least anywhere from 600 to possibly 1,000 years ago. And we have a circle with a line on it. Why would they do that? What is the point in that? They're telling us an orb, a UFO orb, was seen with this line coming down from it. They did not have balloons back then, people. Here we go again. Look at this. South Mountain. And now we have an orb. Let's zoom in on this. Taking away a man. Look at that. This is what happened to the Hohokam people. This is a photograph. 1,000-year-old photograph of what happened to these people. This orb came down and took this person up into the sky, never to return. Vanished from the face of the earth. Here we go again. So this one has 2 lines. See that? A cluster in the sky with 2 lines. No, it's not a cluster of balloons with 2 strings, because did they have strings back then? Well, yeah, they had strings, but did they have balloons back then? I don't think so, no. They're not going to carve balloons. They're going to carve what they think is significant, what they know needs to be retold. These are stories that needs to be retold, and for our generation. These petroglyphs are meant for our generation to understand what we are seeing in the skies and what we are about to see. Because if you haven't seen them yet, you will, because that's what's here. Not spaceships, crafts, little gray guys. I'm sorry, I don't see any evidence of that. I've explored all of the mountains in Phoenix, Arizona. I have not found one evidence, nothing of resembles a spaceship or a craft or little gray guys. Out of all of the thousands of petroglyphs I have researched on the mountains of Phoenix, Arizona, I have not seen one evidence of spaceships, not one evidence of a V craft. Nothing to do with crafts. It is living creatures, living beings. Excuse me. That use these lines to either join together to make a barbell formation, or they use these lines to take animals and people up into the sky. Oh, don't forget the giants. Love the giants. Here we go again. Look at this. Is that a string going crazy on the bottom? No. Why would they carve what looks like balloons to us? You see where I'm going with this? I'm just so sick of people seeing, something, and they automatically assume that it's a balloon because they've been taught all these years, and I'm guilty of it. I was thinking, spaceships at first. I was misled by people who didn't know what they were talking about in the beginning, 1997, March 13th. These people selling books and movies and crafts going over Phoenix when I was there that night and I didn't see shit. What? I'm a witness. I didn't see anything. I was out there that night. I'm a witness of nothing. And why didn't I see him way on the other side of the valley? Because you can't see over there on the other side of the valley where I was at, where a reported ship went over Phoenix. I was there in the middle. Nothing flew over Phoenix. Only lights on the west side. But these people trying to mislead other people into selling books and movies, trying to get famous and get on the news and be on soapboxes, are telling you, and now it's been blown up. And I just think that we have to look at the evidence here. We have to examine the credible evidence. We have to look at the facts. If a video or a photograph has not surfaced of a craft going over the city of Phoenix, there never will be, because that never happened. There has been attempted hoaxes. There's a guy who used to work for News Channel 3, and he swore up and down that he had credible video of the craft going over the city of Phoenix, March 13th, 1997. Now, before he examined that video, before he took it to the labs to make sure that it wasn't a hoax, he aired that shit and claimed that was the real UFO that went over Phoenix. 3 days later, it was dubbed a hoax and proven that it was made by a computer-generated computer. It was a hoax. So it's been over 20 years and not one evidence of anything flying over Phoenix, Arizona. Now, I have video of lights flying over Phoenix. Real lights, not hoax. And they're not spaceships. Yes, they're flying over Phoenix. No, it's not a craft, people. It's not a V-shaped craft. These lights are not spaceships. They're living entities. They're living creatures. And this is what they look like. They have been recorded before by the first Native Americans who lived in Phoenix, who saw the Phoenix lights way before us, who actually talked to them, who dealt with them, who interacted with these beings in the sky. This is what they look like. They carved their photographs of what they look like on the rocks. And here it shows an orb that we see today with a line, not a string. Here we go again. You saw that in the sky today, you would probably think that's a balloon. That's a cluster of balloons. When in fact, that's actually a creature. Not a craft, but a living entity, a living creature. This is why they're never going to tell you what's really here. Because it's stuff like this. It's the photographs like this that's going to scare the public. The public is not ready for this information yet. Here we go again. Look at this. See that orb there? And look at the man. This is what happened to the Hohokam people. They didn't migrate somewhere else. They didn't just, leave this valley. They were taken away by these orbs in the sky. They were taken away by the Phoenix Lights. They were taken away by Quetzalcoatl, the flying serpent. They were taken away by the flying diamonds. They were taken away by the flying orbs. Look at that. You see the man hanging on there? That orb's got him by the arm and taken him up into the sky. This is what happened to the Hohokam Indians in Phoenix, Arizona. The evidence has been sitting here this whole time. I'm not saying anything that hasn't been said before. This information has been covered up for 80 years. All right? The archaeologist isn't going to talk about this, but the evidence is there. I'm showing you proof. This is not hearsay, people. This is credible evidence. It's not only from the first park ranger talking about this. Why would a park ranger talk about this, right? Why would he write in journals? Why would he hand out little brochures to people, telling people about the tombs and the Mayans and the spirits of the earth and sky and the lost city Cibola? Why would his son, after his dad passes away, why did his son write a book about how his dad used to chase people away from the gold tombs on South Mountain? Why? Why? If it wasn't true, if it wasn't factual. This one is a complex panel here. Here we have, let's start at the top. We have a UFO at the top. Now he's projecting this line down. And now he is picking up a man. You see that? And the man is upside down. You can see the man's head. The man's head is upside down there. So this UFO is picking this guy up basically by his ass, by his butt, and taking him up into the sky. You can see his head there on the bottom. See his little head right there? And so the UFO is using that line, that creature is using the line to pick this man up upside down. That is the correct way to interpret this panel. And then we have another UFO, another guy over here to the left, and he's got like a feather. You see that? So, the archaeologist, look at that feather right there next to that word line on the left of your screen. The archaeologist doesn't want to admit or believe that the Hohokam people had like a type of clan. But there's so many panels out there where I see the feather going inward. And there is a lot of quail birds out here in the desert, here on South Mountain. And I believe that the Hohokam used the quail feathers as a type of clan symbol. There's so many petroglyph panels, so many petroglyphs with a man, and he's got this feather pointing this way. That's the exact same formation as a quail bird. The quails have this feather on top of their head. But the archaeologist doesn't want to believe that. He doesn't want to admit that the Hohokams had a clan, and the clan symbol was the quail bird. Here we go. We have this orb, and it's got this line. Look at the line. Oh, is that a balloon? Is this a balloon, people? There's a circle. There's a string. It's got to be a balloon, right? No, he's picking this guy up, picking up this lizard man, picking up by his head. Okay? See that? You see where I'm going with this? There's so many panels out there depicting these orbs, these phoenix lights, these UFOs that we see in the skies today that have this line that comes down from them. These orbs and lights that we see in the sky, this is just the beginning. I have seen what these things do. They change shape. First it'll be an orb. Then it turns into like a snake or a seahorse. Then it changes into a diamond or a worm. Or it'll try to look like an animal such as a lamb or a sheep or even a man. This is just the beginning. These lights and these orbs, that's just the beginning. There's more to them that they have not showed you yet. I have seen what they do. The petroglyphs depict on what they do, on what's to come. I've already seen it. They've already been doing this incredible stuff. I've seen it. A lot of people haven't, but I pay attention. I see what's going on here. And if you pay attention and you understand what's really here, you will understand what's next, what's to come, and that these are not balloons that we're seeing. This is not strings. That this is another creature. This is not technology or a spaceship. That these are living entities. These are living beings. The archaeologists say they anthropomorph. Yes, they do. They change the shape. They shape shift. This is what the Indians has been saying all these years, that they change shape. Here's another reason why the government will never tell you what is going on here. Because look at the past. Look at the history here. We have a UFO that's basically decapitating a man. He's got a line. He's got the line. There's a bow tie UFO in the sky. There's another UFO coming down and basically blowing up this guy's head. This was carved at least 1,000 years ago. This is why they will never, ever tell you what's truly here. Because of the prehistoric photographs of our history. This is our history. This is mankind's history. Not just the Indians. This is the world's history. And it tells us that these things have always been here. This is their home too. This is their planet. And every time these beings interact with man, or mankind contacts these beings, it leads to man's downfall. It is not a good thing. Now, there are good ones out there. Not all of them are bad. When you read some of these ancient texts, you'll soon realize and understand what are the good ones and what are the bad ones. I think what we're dealing with here in Phoenix are the bad ones. I think that curse is credible. I think all that stuff there, the Phoenix Lights and the history of Phoenix, that's not good. And that's what we're seeing today. That's what we're witnessing, are the bad ones. They are not here to help us, but to enslave us one more time. Look at this, just panel after panel after panel. I could go on for days showing you evidence on what happened to the Hohokam people. Here's a spiral doorway, there's a UFO, and there's a man being taken away by a UFO. You see that? There is so much evidence here on the mountains of Phoenix explaining the history of Phoenix and what these UFOs do and what has happened in the past. It's not just some random story here. This is stuff that we really need to take seriously because we are seeing them now. We're seeing the lights. We're seeing these creatures in the sky. More is coming because so many people are seeing them. So, and to understand these things, we have to understand their history, their past. This isn't anything new. You might think that these UFOs are new, but it's not. These things have always been here with man. And their history is carved in stone. And we need to understand this history because this history could be our past or our future. Here we go again. One of my favorite panels. Here we got a UFO orb. And he's taking a man up into the sky with a line. You see that? With a line. Look at that. You understand what I'm getting with this here? You understand what I'm doing here? I'm showing you. I'm showing you Arizona's past here. I'm showing you Phoenix, Arizona's history. I'm showing the Phoenix Lights history here. And all we have to do is understand, is look and take these photographs at face value and look at it as this is what happened here. This is our history. This is what happened. They told us. They carved all this information on the rocks. It's not just telling a story. It's not some Indian making a mark, man. They're telling us what happened. They're telling us about the Phoenix Lights. They're giving us the history on them, man. It's meant for our generation. They saw them. They recorded them. We see them, and we recorded them now with our technology devices. They didn't have technology devices back then. They had these rocks to record the history in the places where the rock can be found at, where the petroglyphs can be found at. It's a photograph. Look, we can go on and go on and on and on. And I could show you so many examples here. All right, now look at this. Now UFO there, right there on the top. Let's look at the top real quick. Let's concentrate on the top. You can see the man. You can see the UFO creature picking the man up by his head. Then we have another one there in the middle of your screen. We have two morphine UFOs. Look at that. Right there in the middle of your screen, you have two box or Tic Tac. People like to call them Tic Tac. Tic Tac UFOs. They're merging together, and one's picking up a guy by his head. There's a man there. And the other, what is he doing? He's about to come down and pick up something on the ground here. But we have a sun marker there. This is a light and shadow panel. Those petroglyphs that we see there, that's a light and shadow marker. You can learn more about those petroglyphs on the light and shadow episodes. Here's another light and shadow episode, or panel, petroglyph right there. These two arrows, these red arrows on the left side of your screen, are showing what the light and shadow petroglyph symbols are looking like. But we're not talking about that now. We're talking about how these Tic Tac UFOs are picking these guys up. They're taking men up into the sky. They're taking people. They're taking people away. This is why they will never tell you never ever tell you what exactly happened here in Phoenix, Arizona, and what the history of these UFOs are. Now, let's look at this one. Here we have a man with an elongated head. And he's looking up at a barbell. See that? He's got his hand on his brow there. And he's looking up at a barbell. A barbell UFO in the sky. See that? Let's examine this panel for a minute. This is the panel that I was telling you about with the archaeologist. On how he he made that guy with the elongated head, he made it just a regular head. See that? He's got his hand on his waist and his hand on his brow. He's looking up at a barbell formation, a barbell UFO. He has an elongated head, much like what we see in Peru, the mummies that we find in Peru. Now look above his head there. You see the circle? Look at the circle and the line that's coming down, not only to merge with the guy with the head, but also with this deer. So this UFO orb, this creature orb, is using two lines to pick up this man and this deer. We're concentrating on this piece right here in the middle of your screen. Look at the circle right above that guy's head. Look at the line that's coming down to his head. Look at the line up to the right hand of this orb that is merging, that is grabbing the deer's legs. Oh, and it looks like the other deer is merging with these with the orb also. You see that? It's not a balloon. It's not a balloon with two strings that is about to pick up this guy and is holding that deer in the sky. Okay, so there was a sighting in Chandler that we're going to show you here. Let's bring it in. We're going to examine this UFO sighting, okay? And so many people are looking at this thing and telling this lady that she's filming balloons. And because they might see something hanging from the bottom of it. But obviously, they do not understand how balloons act, how balloons move. When you study this UFO sighting, let's go ahead and play it. Let's take a look at this. Let's look at this. This is new. This happened a couple days ago. They think that this is a balloon. Look how this thing is moving in the sky. Now they see something hanging from the bottom of it. Okay? Look at that. You see what it just did right there? And because so many people are looking for spaceships, they automatically assume that this is a balloon. Now, let's look at this here. Let's compare this here for a minute. Let's stop this. Let's boop. Now you can barely see that little string on the bottom. Not string. Don't say the S word. You can barely see that little line on the bottom. See that? You can barely see it, but it's visible. And that's why they think that it's a balloon. because they see something on the bottom. And they automatically assume that it's a string. But they do not understand the petroglyphs here. And look at the way the thing is moving. Look at that. Look how it's separated there. That orb separated from that serpent. So it's a serpent. It's a cluster. Let's look at it again. And let's compare it to the petroglyph to the right of your screen. Look how it moves. Balloons do not act like this. You see how this thing is moving and is shape-shifting? Look at that. See that? This is not balloons. Isn't that incredible? Look at that. Look at that thing. Look, 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 look. Is that crazy or what? This is what we are dealing with here. This is what the Hohokam people has been trying to show us or tell us this whole time with their sightings on the rocks. Look how it moves. See? Look at that. And they see something on the bottom and they automatically assume that it's a balloon. When the Hohokam people have been carving the exact same things at least 1,000 years ago, maybe older. Look at that. Isn't that something? This is great. And from a cell phone. She used a cell phone. Look at that. Isn't that neat? This is what we're dealing with. Not crafts, but a living creatures. Living beings. Is that amazing or what? That is just crazy. You did a great job. And so people, they see these things or they post, these videos and they automatically criticize. They criticize these legit UFO sightings, and it really makes the people not want to post anything, because they're gonna get ridiculed, and I just don't think that's correct. I don't think that's right, and it has a lot to do. It has everything to do with wrong information and not understanding what these UFOs are, not an understanding what the petroglyphs are talking about, and so yeah. That is our show for today. Glad you stuck with us with this. Well, how long did we go? We went over 2 hours again, and my bad. But we had to go over this, and we had to talk about this, So when you see these beings in the sky, when you film them, try not to use a cell phone. Please, please, please use a video camera if you can, because the cell phones just don't do it justice. And you just, because the cell phones, use a video camera. It's a lot better to get, better detail and things like that. And, examine what balloons look like in the sky. When you see a balloon in the sky, watch it, understand it, see the way it moves, see the way it flies, see the way it descends up in the sky. So when you see something abnormal that kind of resembles a balloon, but doesn't resemble a balloon, it makes you question it, then that's probably one of those creatures. All right, so let's start understanding what's really here. Let's learn from the petroglyphs, okay? Because it's not all what everybody thinks that is here, okay? It's not all nuts and bolts technology. There is something else here. There is a living creature here. These are living beings. These are living entities. Okay, that's our show for tonight, folks. Thank you so much for sticking with me through this long show. Hopefully, you understand a little bit more, and hopefully that you understand the petroglyphs, and hope you enjoyed it. Follow my page, the Phoenix Lights Petroglyphs in the Sky YouTube channel. And find me on Facebook also. Contact me on Facebook. Let me know. Send me your UFO sightings and your petroglyph panels. And yeah, man, thank you guys so much. And we will see you guys next time. Thank you guys so much again.